to get on the agenda of the science or something. So there's no reason why we're.
Well, they can tell me if it's feasible.
Finally move.
Yeah, or you can have them come up and testify.
Away from the road, so
Yeah.
people aren't standing in the middle of the road.
But yeah, no, feasibility.
Yeah,
That's all I wanted.
it's on West First Avenue, because it's like a cut through for a lot of people.
No worries, no.
Oh. For Homestead.
For Homestead, the high school, people just come in, or just come in from.
Good evening and welcome to the meeting of the North Pole City Council. Today is April 21st, 2025. I can't believe how many people we have here. It's excellent. Thank you all for coming. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Keller,
Here.
Mr. Claus,
Here.
Mr. Brandt,
Here.
Mr. Williams,
Here.
Mr. Jacobson,
Here.
Mr. Schuster,
Here.
and Mayor Turch.
Here. I'll ask that you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. After the pledge, we'll have the invocation, and if you would remain standing for that, we have a little presentation by the North Pole High School Choir.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I am up. Lord, we pray for the forward thinking that we will use in this meeting. Anoint us with your spirit as we work through these concerns. Grant us the ability to lead us into your company with accuracy and passion for our community. Bless our talents and may our worship inspire us to draw near to you. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Miss Dre Doppel and the North Pole High School Concert Choir. Exceptional. Well done, Benny. Thank you. Whew. All right. Wow. Something else.
Move to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobson, for getting us back on track. I'll second that.
Move to amend the agenda.
State your amendment, please.
Move item 13C, resolution 2025-09, newer account signers to consent agenda.
Second.
Discussion?
On the first approval, I heard Jeff. Did I get a second on that?
I did.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Any other amendments? I would like to.
Once we get to that, yeah, we'll postpone it.
Okay.
Was there any other comments?
Discussion?
Yeah, no.
Yep.
Okay,
Call the roll, please.
on the agenda as amended, Mr. Claus,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Keller. Yikes. Mr. Jacobson,
Yes.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. Brandt,
Yes.
and Mayor Church.
Yes.
On the agenda for this evening, Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Brandt,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson,
Yes.
Mr. Claus,
Yes.
Mr. Keller, and Mayor Church.
Yes. Would anyone like to change their vote? Okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve the regular minutes from April 7th, 2025.
Second.
Discussion? Please call the roll.
On the minutes from the April 7th meeting, Mr. Brandt,
Yes.
Mr. Claus,
Yes.
Mr. Schuster, Mr. Jacobson,
Yes.
Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mayor Church.
Yes. Anyone like to change their vote? Seeing none, that moves us on to item number 6.
Move to approve the special meeting minutes from April 14th, 2025.
Second.
Discussion? Please call the roll.
On the minutes from the April 14th special meeting, Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. Brandt,
Yes.
Mr. Keller, Mr. Jacobson,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Claus,
Yes.
and Mayor Church.
Yes. That brings us on to item 7, communications from the mayor, and we will do the oath of offices for Councilmember Jordan Schuster and Councilmember David Brandt.
If you just want to stand up.
Want secondary mic? That should work, huh?
That'll work.
I, Jordan Schuster,
I, Jordan Schuster,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Alaska,
the Constitution of the State of Alaska,
and the Code of Ordinances of the North Pole, of the City of North Pole.
and the Code of Ordinance of the City of North Pole.
And I will faithfully discharge my duties as a council member.
And I'll faithfully discharge my duties as a council member.
So help me God.
So help me God.
And then if you'll just sign there. I've got one for you and one's for. I, David Brandt,
I, David Brandt,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Alaska,
the Constitution of the State of Alaska,
and the Code of Ordinances of the City of North Pole.
and the Code of Ordinances of the City of North Pole,
And I will faithfully discharge my duties as a city council member.
and that I will faithfully discharge my duties as a city council member.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you.
Welcome, gentlemen. It is wonderful to have a full council. So thank you for that. Thank you to everyone who did apply to fill those 2 empty seats. It was quite a turnout. That brings us to a council reorganization, Madam Clerk.
Yes, since Ellen left, we do have the seat of Deputy Mayor Pro Tem. Does anybody want to nominate?
I want to nominate myself for that.
Are there any other nominations?
I would like to nominate Jordan Schuster for alternate deputy pro tem.
We have 2. Oh, so we're on the Deputy Mayor Pro Tem. Is that what you?
Sorry, I thought we were doing them both at the same time.
Um,
That's my mistake. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
So we have Benny is nominated for the Deputy Mayor Pro Tem, and this is one of the yes nos. Ballot.
You know I'm gonna put yes.
I won't get as many steps in this tonight.
Yeah.
For sure. Oh, Santa, if you want to text your vote.
I'll see if I can figure out how to do that.
I can actually say with certainty that we have more than 4 votes, so we can move on. So
That's
now
fine.
we do have an opening for the Deputy Alternate Mayor Pro Tem that Benny has just vacated. Does anybody want to nominate?
I would like to nominate Jordan Schuster for the deputy alternate pro tem.
And are there any other nominations?
Nominate Mr. David Brandt for
Okay.
alternative.
We have 2. Are there any other nominations? So then they vote for one or the other.
I would say, I would.
Okay, that is, so this will be a yes, no answer, and we need to get to 4.
Councilman Claus, if you haven't already texted in, now is your time, sir.
I'm not sure which number to text it into. I'm not sure what the question was. We're voting no on what?
Yes or no on Jordan Schuster being deputy alternate pro tem.
Thank you.
And that was approved. Congratulations, Jordan and Benny.
All right. Now that we're done there, that brings us to the rest of communications from the mayor. A quick update on the donated Santa that Miss Glab is taking to Hume, Missouri. There is a Facebook page going on. It is the Santa's Travel from North Pole AK to Hume, Missouri 2025. If you wanted to follow that on Facebook. Currently, Santa and Miss Glab are in Fargo, North Dakota. She was hoping to make it to Hume by Easter, but unfortunately that didn't happen. But it is really neat to see the travels and the things that she is experiencing with Santa Claus as they make their trip down the Alcan and beyond. Other things for me, I attended a housing meeting with PACAF at Eielson Air Force Base. Colonel Justin Morrison flew in from Hawaii, from Hickam Air Force Base, to talk about the housing deficiency that was brought up during the SATAF, which is the Site Activation Task Force at Eielson, in relation to the 168th and 354th Fighter Wing at Eielson Air Force Base, and their discernment of a lack of housing in the North Pole area. According to their numbers, we're about 260 homes shy. I had a little bit of a disagreement with that number when I saw it at the SATAF, because that was a number that was also used in 2023. I sent off a few emails, and that brought Mr. Morrison to town to discuss that, along with his housing group from PACAF. I know that Mayor Hopkins also went out, along with Kellen Spellman and Melissa from the Planning Department. Mayor Bryce Ward attended with me to talk to housing, because he was part of every single SATAF that happened during his 6 years here at North Pole and his 6 years at the borough. There wasn't really a plan as to what was going to happen after that, but it was good information for them to sort of hear it from multiple sources to get on the same page as far as the housing that we have here, the availability that we currently have, and asking them to change their numbers. They do strategic planning at PACAF that's 5 to 7 years out. So that deficiency in housing could truly affect our entire area for the next 5 to 7 years, which is why it was so important to bring everyone in to that meeting and try and get them to change their mathematics, because it really will affect our entire area. Went to the fast planning last week, did my best I possibly could to try and change or cancel the PD Nordale roundabout. That is a $4.8 million project that really doesn't, in my opinion, need to be spent. We tried to change that to stoplights and brush clearing. That would have caused the federal funding to completely disappear. We tried to amend it. We tried to cancel it, and both of those votes were split 3-3 at fast planning. So ultimately, that ended up passing. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works. As much as I want the funds to come to our area, because we really do have a lack of construction projects in our area compared to everywhere else in the state. A roundabout in that location for that cost is, without trying anything else, is kind of disappointing to watch our money be spent that way. Let's see. Went to a meeting about the gas pipeline in the spur to Fairbanks last Friday. That was pretty exciting to hear the different financial players coming together and their plans on trying to put that together and really get going on that this summer. So that is an exciting step to see. I have been busy on Friday mid-mornings. One of my favorite things to do is to go and read to school kids. I have been over the last couple of weeks at Summit Academy reading to 1st, 2nd, 4th, and 5th graders, and had pizza with them last Friday, or Friday before last. What an enjoyable group of kids, just happy-go-lucky. So I'm happy to have done that, and if there's anyone else who would like me to come and fumble my my dyslexic way through a book to show kids that even adults sometimes have a difficulty reading, I'd be more than happy to bring that to them. We interviewed a candidate for Director of City Services on Friday, which was exciting, and that's still out. I met with James Menaker at the Fairbanks North Star Borough Health and Social Services. I wasn't aware that our borough had a health and social services department and that they give out grants to nonprofits who are outside of our general unincorporated areas. It was a good education lesson for me to have that, but neat to see. Saturday, I was out at the Eielson Air Force Base Comic-Con, which is something that I normally wouldn't attend. My wife is usually the Star Wars person, but it was really a good time to go out there. They gave me a tour of the library out there, and if you haven't been, it was pretty cool. They had one of my favorite books on display, Mercy Pilot, which is about Joe Crossan, who Crossan Avenue is named after. I love Fairbanks history and kind of dug off into that. One more announcement that I wanted to bring, and I will read this straight from a memo that I sent out to all employees, that I am pleased to announce the appointment of Lieutenant Jed Smith as the new police chief of the city of North Pole, effective May 4th, 2025. The appointment will be publicly announced at this evening's meeting, and the new chief's badge pinning ceremony will take place May 5th. So all of you are invited to attend. That will be a really cool ceremony for the city of North Pole, and to bring on a new police chief and say goodbye to Chief Dutra at the same time. So please feel free to come out. I'd like to thank Lieutenant Smith for all the many years that he's served and dedicated to our community, his professionalism, and the high standard that he sets for the entire police department and has for many years. So thank you for that, Lieutenant Smith, and well done, sir. I would like to just address a couple of questions that I've had from council members regarding our remodel of City Hall here, pulling out the box that most of you would have been sitting in had it still been up, and the cost of removing that box. We sent out a memorandum a couple of weeks ago to council members, originally reporting that amount as about $26,000, that it went a little bit over budget, but dialing in those numbers to the exact CFO, we have that down to $24,008.44 for a complete remodel of City Hall, which is pretty exceptional. And I would like to thank Public Works for making that happen. They do a lot for our city in every single department, and they really did come through here at our City Hall. And I'm happy to give the chambers back to the people, which is originally where it belongs, and also get our people who work inside the City Hall a little bit of extra space and room. So with that, I'll take any questions from anyone. Yes, please.
You said the Air Force said that they needed an additional 260 housing units. Is that correct?
I believe it's, yeah, 250,
Interested in what you think
260.
the actual number is.
Well, they're using math based on their strategic plan, but the number that they were using with that deficiency was from 2023 numbers, not today's numbers. And looking at the charts of available rentals, available Airbnbs, our housing market, that number from 2023 certainly has decreased. I don't know if it's 100 or 0. For PACAF to tell us the math that they're using to come up with that deficiency. They did not let that cat out of the bag, unfortunately.
What is your estimate?
We have about a 10% vacancy of rentals in our area at almost any given time throughout the year. And that's what was so concerning to me, because at that day, there was more than 200 homes on the market for sale in the general Fairbanks, North Pole area that they could have purchased. So to see a deficiency on the screen from 2023 and have them say that these are the numbers they're using is unfortunate because it does affect future planning for our entire area for 5 to 7 years. So I saw a discrepancy in the math, a discrepancy in the numbers, and I brought it to their attention. And I'm glad that we had the discussion. Whether or not it changes how they do their math, their strategic planning, I can't speak to that. Our housing market is very strong. I just wanted to know if we really did have a deficiency, because if we did, I would like to go out and start talking to builders and saying, let's build now. Let's get ready for this big push that's coming. This is when it's coming. And without knowing that sort of information, our building window is so short anyway. I want to try and make that happen for them and for us. It's a two-way street. It's not one-sided in any way, and it's unfortunate that they don't let our general area know a little bit more about what's coming our way so that we can prepare for that. I know that disappointment is felt pretty much across the entire borough, that we don't have a whole lot of heads up as to what's coming. We do have some numbers, but if they said we needed 400 homes in the next 2 years, it would be a whole lot easier to go out and start having those discussions with builders and making that happen. And I don't mean me, but I mean the community in general to go out and do this. So we'll see what happens from that, and maybe that's what will come out of it. I really don't know.
Well, I'm with you. I don't think the deficiency is nearly what they're claiming it is. And I was just curious what you thought the actual number was, but.
Tough to know what the number is
Yeah,
without
yeah.
seeing their math.
But I agree. It's nowhere near 260 though.
My dad, an old math teacher, loved to be able to see the work as it happened, to be able to know where the mathematics went wrong. Tough to know. Any other questions? Yeah,
Actually,
please.
on the same thing, when you went back to the Air Force PACAF and you actually included Airbnb numbers, why did you include Airbnb numbers with those? Because those are like mini hotels. They're the owners that own those make very good money on like overnight stays and week-long stays. So you can't really put that into like a 2, 3 year, 4 year cycle.
So what they started to notice down at the planning department on the FNSB quarterly that they have out is the raise and the increase in Airbnbs in our general area, and they're guessing that we have somewhere around 1,400 Airbnbs in our general area. Those would typically be rentals that we no longer have to be able to rent out. Although they're not long-term solutions, they certainly can be short-term solutions of up to 30 days in some of them even longer. But that's really at the Airbnb owner's discretion. But it certainly does and should be taken into account of some of our available housing in that 2-week, 3-week window where they can actually come to town, purchase a house, wait for it to close, so that we don't have additional deficiencies. But to show that trend of the Airbnbs becoming a stronger side of our market, it directly removes a rental off the market that would be a long-term rental.
So that's my case is if we have the increased Airbnbs, to me, I think the Air Force is closer to what we're deficient in as an area rather than like what we think our numbers are. With that being said, does that include the 4 extra tankers that we're supposed to be getting with like the active duty and all their families and support staff?
So those folks, from what I understand, are coming.
Mm-hmm.
And then they still have 200-ish more that are on their way sometime in the next 2 to 4 years.
Yeah. So to me, I think our builders need to get it. I'm on the side with the PACAF. that we need to have more vacancy openings. I don't know, do you know the average of percentage of vacancies that is acceptable within the state of Alaska or lower 48?
I don't know.
So 10% is not that much. So I'm just kind of curious. I know the area has been bit before by military building and having overbuilt and then military not coming. But with what's going on in the world today, I think pushing for and helping our builders get more homes available, and a certain percentage are going to automatically turn into Airbnbs just because of the market. So instead of pushing back on the Air Force, I think we need to be pushing and helping somehow builders to see the need that it's like we're 5 years behind the 8 ball,
Okay.
in my opinion.
Okay. Is there a question in there somewhere?
I was asking, still pulling what the number was that the borough thinks that we're behind.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I can look into it if you'd like.
And then the normal, what is the normal acceptance rate for percentage of vacancies?
I will look into that. If you'll email me, I'll send that off to the planning department and get you some answers.
All right, I'm gonna copy and paste from the minutes, so thanks.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, Mayor Church, I wondering if there's been any kind of study done on an economic impact from the potential LNG project to our area and how that affects the military housing. Because I could foresee a real shortage if that takes off and our current deficiency.
I agree. I haven't seen any report of that, but I 100% agree. I think we have a better chance of the military coming in than the gas line being built. They've talked about the gas line since 1977, and I'm supportive of it every time. I remember when I was a haul road truck driver up and down the road, and they were out there surveying in 2010, I think. 2011, they were surveying because it was going to happen in 2012, 2013. So I'm supportive of it every time. I think it really is the answer to our problem to have natural gas in our area and to bring a pipeline. I hope it happens. Thank you for the question. Anyone else? Okay, on to the rest of our agenda. Madam Clerk, please take it away with citizens' comments.
I don't have anybody that signed up online, but any person wishing to speak needs to sign up on the list located on the public testimony table. Respectful standards of decorum and courtesy should be observed by all speakers. Remarks should be directed to the council as a body rather than any one member of the council or staff. Oh.
So Greg Corbett, so let me in here real quick. One question I have for you, Mr. Church, is does the Air Force have any plans to build any additional housing?
So that I don't know. There have been some talks of that, but like everything else, it's been very quiet and I haven't heard one way or the other on that. I know that it's been brought up, but nothing is solidified or for sure or in the works that I'm aware of.
Two things. I know I'm on the agenda here in a little bit for something else, but I wanted to thank Mr. Williams and the fire department. Saturday, we had a chili cook-off over at the Santa Senior Center. Actually, evidently it was okay because Benny's here, so. I am a little peeved. I only came in second place, so, but it was a fundraiser. We are getting in the process of repaving the entire parking lot there. I think it's about a $65,000 bill. We raised $700 that day, which is going towards it. But so that is something that is ongoing. So please we'll have some other fundraisers coming up. I know our Santa Senior Center president is raffling off a motorcycle. I can't give you the details. I know it's a Harley Davidson. That's about it. So we will have that coming up. One other point that I'd like to bring up is to put on your agenda, the 28th of September this year. Okay.
Apparently,
Under interrogation.
apparently they felt like you needed to be under lights, sir.
So, but St. Nicholas Catholic Church will have its 50th anniversary on September 28th, that Sunday. So we'd love to have everyone in attendance. I know we have some of our old pastors coming back and members, and there are still a few of the members around that were here when that was built. So we'd like to invite you all to attend there. Thank you. September 28th, Sunday, September 28th is our actual date. Mass.
Okay.
Can you repeat that church one more time?
Yes, St. Nicholas.
Oh, yes.
Catholic Church, right
That's
down
all-
from the
that's-
big Santa Claus,
Yeah.
that if you know Father Robert, there's a lot of discouragement there, but. Yes, ma'am.
What time would that be?
We'll have mass. I mean, we have 9 o'clock and noon mass on every Sunday. So I'm sure we'll do that. And then we'll probably have a celebration in the afternoon to
Okay.
commemorate. Yes,
Just a
sir.
quick question. Are you involved with the repaving of the parking lot? Are you involved? with that project?
I'm on the Santa Senior Board.
Okay.
So we entered under contract, oh gosh, about 6 weeks ago. We had put out several different feelers for individuals to contact us. We only got one back. The stipulation was that if we could get them under contract, that they would be able to do it at a fairly reasonable price. And the reason being is because of Three Bears down the road still doing some of their paving and stuff. So the equipment's in the area, the asphalt's in the area. It would be a savings. Most of the companies in the area didn't even want to touch us because it's such a small area, and for equipment that they'd have to bring in, it wasn't profit.
Have
for
you talked to Public Works at all? You open a can of worms there?
them. A little bit.
Well, I was
Uh,
just going to suggest talking to Cody down there and see if you could coordinate with him if there's any kind of work that the city
Right.
needs to be done. I know that there's problems with that intersection there.
There
They
is,
did address that
there's-
last
there's
summer a
some
little bit.
sinking and-
Right.
yes, mhm.
But if you're gonna have the parking lot tore up at that time, maybe we can go in and do what we need to do, split some costs. Maybe there'd be cost savings on
Okay.
both ends that way.
Truthfully, no, we have not spoken with the city, with not a director not being in place. That was, I think, kind of our assumption is we had, other than the mayor and the mayor pro tem now to talk to. So, but that is something we could do, definitely. Get with them. What our dates and times are. So,
I think if we could share some costs, that maybe both of us can come out ahead that way.
I like that idea. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
All right, we'll be back in a minute.
Anyone else wishing? Oh, yes.
Just to give a little update every once in a while, so I'm just doing my due duty.
Good evening, Jerry. Good to see
Good
you.
evening. So I have an idea. This gentleman's trying to raise money for paving, and he's in a fundraiser. We're going to pave 2,500 feet of road this summer. So we wanted to join the fundraisers to get some money. I'm just kidding. Our tab is quite extensive. It's pretty big. But anyway, it was a good thought on mob demob, which you mentioned. That's a huge item. There is a contractor that's taking care of ours. If you want to touch base with me afterward, we'll see if there's any coordination factor. We'd love to help Santa Claus, the seniors like myself. Anyway, a little quick update. Of course, as I just mentioned, Brookside Park, we're doing our final phase. We'll be paving. They cleared the roads here a couple weeks ago, waiting for the ditches to thaw out, and then they'll reshape, compact, and then D1 shape, compact, and then asphalt. And so that'll be done earlier this summer, weather permitting. And so it's not going to be much of a traffic deal because there's only a few houses on that road. And so they'll probably just do one lane and bypass traffic along. They can divert it over to Blanket Boulevard because we finished all that off last year. And But anyway, the other thing is, I used to be a property manager for years. I'm done. Fortunately, I have no rentals anymore. And, but in the 30, 40 years, I think, or something like that, that I did it, the healthy, balanced housing market vacancy ratio was 5 to 10%. When it started going more than that, then we always felt like we're in an unhealthy situation, and we were in an unhealthy situation with our loans and stuff like that, because we always depended on not more than a 10% vacancy factor. We just didn't have the cushion to go more than that. And so that's kind of, and I look at the vacancy stuff all the time now because I'm still involved in some stuff. And our market, according to what we always judged by when I was in business, is healthy. And, but I do have all the military stuff on my desk that says what they need and stuff like that. And so if those type of people do come in, we definitely don't have a lot of good quality homes available. If you're looking for a 3 or 4 bedroom home or something like that, there is some smaller apartment stuff and stuff like that, but I don't know, when we always built, we always tried to think of the single person and the young couple and then the families. And so when we built, we were always trying to think of, okay, they're going to be single for a little bit, then they're going to be double, and then they're going to be a family. So we want to keep them for 10 years. And we did it often. And so then in this market, I think right now it's probably lacking a little bit in the family side. And so I'd love to see builders build more. They do call my office often, and it's expensive to build nowadays. And so I know what it cost me to build in the days I built, and I thought it was expensive then, but my first car was expensive. It was $8,500 back in the day. I'm not that old. Okay, I'm done.
Questions for Mr. Corner? Thanks, Jerry. Anyone else? You get the hot pen right after he's done with it, Miss Wilson.
So hi, my name is Tammy Wilson. I'm not here speaking on behalf of the borough because that would be an ethics violation, which we'll learn more about in another meeting. But I did think it was important to let you know that on May 1st is when budget testimony is out for public hearing. We won't be making any amendments. We'll wait till the 8th to do that. Some of the driving factors, education was a $2 million increase. The bus service was $3.4 million. That wasn't an increase. We've been getting COVID money for the last 2 to 3 years. That's been being filled in by the federal government, and now we have to pay for it. And then the other part is, of course, salaries, which went up about 3.4%. So what did we discuss on Saturday for those of you who had better things to do than listening to us for 6 or 7 hours? There were some amendments made. So from Mary's side, it was voted to close it. Yes, I have not looked at my box yet, but I am sure it's full. Joy Community Center, 4-5, did not go forward. There was some issues about salaries. Just so those who haven't been over there, we took Joy Elementary over when the school district moved out. And then the library filled in, which was a great thing when we had all the construction going, but it was, most of us thought that we would sell, give it away, do something else with it, and then it became Joy Community Center somehow overnight. And so we have some park and rec activities over there, but in my personal opinion, the library is an awesome place. Mary, when we did Noel Wien Library, there's a couple of really big rooms. They do activities for the library now to be able to do that. Of course, then you've got to watch vandalism. How do you get rid of a school? And you also have bonding issues because we bonded for schools and then we rebonded the schools and we kind of started lumping them in as we go. So it's not like we can say, this is how much we owe for Joy, this is how much we would owe for Hunter, this is what we, for North Pole High. So that's an issue, but we have extra money in that fund that we could set aside because a few years, if you remember back, legislature couldn't remember, should we pay our portion? Should we not pay our portion? Not our responsibility, not our responsibility, but they did pay, but they waited so long that a couple times the borough went ahead and put that money in to make sure. And then the last thing that we discussed was the Carlson Center and closing the Carlson Center. I know, we were on a roll. About $740,000 is a loss of that building. I can say, though, that they have done a lot of things for the community in the Carlson Center. But somebody said, well, it's free. Well, it might be free for some of the activities, but the taxpayer pays. So at the end of the day, I know you're wanting to know the big number at the end. And so we are about $6.4 million going into our savings account because we have a revenue tax cap and we had approximately $7 in it when we started. And if you do the math, that doesn't go very far. So, you know, we could do that for a couple years, but overall, we can't continue to do it. And so I guess I find it ironic that we all looked at the school district to close schools and do that, which there's no fun in that whatsoever. But they also realized, probably more than the borough, we can't keep paying these amounts higher than the revenue that we have. And the voters were very specific. Over 65% last year said they did not want to pay more property taxes. And honestly, most of them didn't care if it was schools or borough or what it was. They really just didn't want to pay any more. So if this doesn't get you come out on the 1st, you could always come out on the 8th or watch it on TV. You don't even have to come down and see us. Just so the public knows, even on the 1st, if you call the clerk's office by 4 p.m. that day, or you can call them earlier in the week, they actually will call you and you can do your testimony just right from your recliner. That's all I got.
If I may ask a question, the Carlson Center being in such a deficiency last year, did that take into account the new ice that went in, or was that a totally separate project that wasn't equated in that deficiency?
So that's just operating. And to put that in context, when we used to have a third party run it, there was an agreement that no matter how they did, we would pay up to $500,000 at that point. So when we first did the Carlson Center, they knew it would be probably $1 million in the hole. So they have, you know, dwindled that down, you know, and they are trying to open up to more things, but it really comes down to a point, how much can taxpayers pay and what do we have to have? We have to have schools, right? No matter what anybody thinks of schools, we need schools, you know, and we're kind of getting to that point to where do we spend the money as long as the taxpayers right now don't want to pay anymore. And that's why I kind of really want to see a budget, what that would look like, because that's really what voters need to see. And they may be in favor or they may be totally against it. But as long as we continue to go into our savings account, they really can't understand what that would look like, to no fault of their own.
Right.
But hard decisions are hard.
Yeah.
Mayor, may I?
Yeah, please.
Just real quick, you may or may not be able to answer this officially or unofficially, whatever.
Unofficially.
Unofficially. When they were discussing closing Two Rivers Elementary, did they discuss the increase in actual transportation costs to bus those kids further? And is that part of the deficit that we're seeing with transportation?
So it is my understanding that they didn't take the busing into consideration, but I do believe, you know, some of the buses, you know, run out there. My understanding, they took into account only the amount of people in those buildings. Like you wouldn't need another principal if that gets done. You wouldn't need the custodials. Most of the teachers, from my understanding, and I'm sure Melissa Burnett will call me if I'm wrong, most of the teachers were going to hopefully move within the system, but you wouldn't have another principal, vice principal, you know, extra counselors, anything like that. So that's what they were including. They weren't even including electric and all the rest. And so what Two Rivers will become now, so it doesn't shut down, they're going to kind of open it for at least a position, maybe more, and kind of run it as kind of like what they're going to do out here at Midnight Sun, is make it kind of a portal for best, to give them a way to be able to do if they didn't want to do homeschooling only on their own. Because, you know.
Which they did that at Nordell Elementary too, correct?
So Nordale, yeah, Nordale is the actual kind of the only, right now, the hub for doing all activities for BEST. So now they hope to be able to copy that within Two Rivers and within Midnight Sun. And because right now they make over $2 million on homeschoolers. And so they're finding out maybe that's where the money is.
That's another
And that came from
topic.
the superintendent.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Wait, say that one more time?
The superintendent is one who told us that they make over $2 million off the homeschooling program.
Oh,
You know, so I knew they made probably some, but I was surprised that it was that much.
thank you.
The things you learn.
Anything else? Ms. Wilson, thank you for coming and giving testimony as a private citizen this evening. We do
To see
appreciate it and
you
being
there
so
on the first.
educated about bringing us that information. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Okay. That brings us to item number 10, communications from department heads. Madam HR, since you are joining us again, do we have a report? No report. Okay, Madam Clerk.
She was here to help me count all the ballots. I wasn't sure if it was going to go crazy like it did the other night. It's been busy in the clerk's office. We had 3 meetings this month. Welcome to Jordan and David. We're very happy to have you seated. And just a reminder, I know 50% of you have done it, but you have 30 days to file with APOC. So just a reminder. And I will just keep my report brief. We'll work on the work session and let you guys know when that'll be.
Any questions? All right. That brings us to the police report. Lieutenant Smith.
Much more comfortable.
Under different light this time.
Yeah. Just a couple brief things, and then we'll talk more when you get to some of the other agenda items. The lieutenant position is currently open, which feels a little odd since I am still the lieutenant, but it'll be open till the 30th. Hopefully we'll have a good selection to make out of there, whether internal or external. I mentioned at a previous meeting that we're looking to do some different equipment upgrades to get us more in line with national standards. One of those being a total sidearm or pistol refresh. Those have been ordered, and we're also exploring some alternate shooting range options because it's becoming increasingly difficult to get out to Eielson and use their range. So we're actually going to explore using the Fox range for the first time this summer. I have some stats I'd like to share with you just for awareness and knowledge. So these are from March 2025. And typically when I do these, I also look back at the previous year, and then I also take a look back 5 to 7 years just to get somewhat of an idea. In March, we were looking at 560 calls, which is up about 36% from 413 last year in 2024. The trend is that they're rising. Just as an example, back in 2018, March 2018 had 246 calls. That's a 56% increase over those 7 years. Our workload for officers this month, 10 officers, it's 56 calls per officer. In 2018, we had 27 calls per officer, or literally half what we have now. So activity is continuing to increase. Traffic stops, citations. The one good thing is our relative crime rates are staying pretty stable, right? So Part 1 crimes, which are the more serious ones, larceny, assault, these types of things. 3 in March. Actually, in 2018, we had 8. So there's a decrease there. Part 2 crimes would be the less serious, right? Misdemeanors, frauds, disturbances. Those are holding pretty stable as well. And then finally, arrests. This month we had 12 arrests. The trend is that they peaked in 2023 at 204 in March. And as a 2018 comparison, March 2018 had 5 arrests. So again, about 58% less. So just food for thought as we continue to develop the police department. And I bring different propositions and things to you folks that it is continuing, the activity based on the population rate is continuing to go up. So it's very important that we stay apprised of that and also stay in a position to be able to respond to it appropriately. And that's all I have. I'll take any questions you might have.
Seeing none. Looks like you're off the hook.
Right.
Write you a warning this time, sir. Chief Heineken.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, and welcome to our new council members. I'm excited to see both of you here. It's great to see 2 very rooted people on our council. I know both of you had deep roots in North Pole. David, I know we've had discussions about how far back your family goes in the fire service in the North Pole area, and I'm so grateful to see your family continuing to give to the community. And Jordan, you make me feel old. So I think maybe the last time we saw each other, you probably were playing hockey with my son. So it is great to see the next generation come up and thriving and doing well. So congratulations on your position. I look forward to you being on the council. So welcome. So for the fire department, as I reported last, we had 8 apprentice applications come in. On last week, we actually interviewed 5 of those 8. We had 5 show up, which is a pretty good number. With that application pool, you're always worried about the commitment level, and we knew that would be some no-shows. So we interviewed 5 candidates, and we're going through the rest of that process this week. And hopefully by midweek next week, we'll have notifications out of our 3 apprentices that'll start July 1. So great news there. One of the other things that, was part of our recruitment and retention progress over the last few years was sending staff to paramedic school. And I haven't been reporting as much on Parker Jarvis's progress as I should be. I really should have been focusing a little bit more in communicating with you all how well he's doing. So this last week, he passed his final exam, which he worked really hard, studied really hard. Since January, he's been doing the ride-along programs for his paramedic program. He spent about a month in Juneau riding along with Capital City Fire and Rescue, getting calls on their ambulance. And then he returned home and was able to finish his requirements right here with North Pole. And as it always goes, in emergency services, we get overwhelmed with calls when we don't want them. And then when we want calls, it gets slow. So it seemed painful how slow it was when he was actually at the station on shift. The other shifts would get hammered and then he would be twiddling his thumbs, it felt like. It really wasn't like that, but because he had, to get things done, it made it seem that way. So we're glad he got through that. We're glad he's passed his final. His last step is he'll be traveling to Boston for his capstone project at the end of this month, finishing that up, and then he'll finish up that project. So we're extremely happy. He is the very first staff member we at North Pole Fire Department have ever sent to paramedic school. And it was a great success. He's done very well. He was the best guinea pig that we could have found, and I've told him that. It was trial and error. I mean, this whole process of working out how this worked with a current employee, he was very flexible with us. He was very patient with us. Tremendous employee we have, and I look forward to Mr. Jarvis working with us for many, many years as a paramedic. So great success there. The last thing I have to report is this coming weekend, we've got our fire apparatus driver operator certification testing going on. And what that entails is a lot of big fire trucks doing some maneuvering and testing individuals that are being certified on operating, not just driving them, but actually operating the apparatus, whether it's, pumping or, deploying equipment off of them. This includes more than just our fire department. There'll be fire departments from around the borough. Here in the city, we're hosting the testing site. So if you do see multiple fire apparatus this weekend, Saturday and Sunday in the city, don't panic. Hopefully it is there for testing purposes and not for emergency purposes, but you might see an increase of fire apparatus from other departments around. So that's all I have for tonight. I can take any questions. Please.
A quick question about the apprenticeship program. If I'm not mistaken, it's limited to graduating seniors. Is that correct?
That is our target. We don't have a firm set policy, but that is our target, is for graduating seniors to pull them into the emergency services. So yeah, you were correct.
I'm just wondering what the rationale behind limiting it to such a narrow group of people.
The rationale is this was part of our recruitment and retention program that we developed approximately 3 years ago. This was one of the key elements. And what we did is we recognized that we were drawing a lot of great talent into the fire departments, not just North Pole Fire Department. I'm talking borough-wide, our borough. draws a lot of talented firefighters, young firefighters from everywhere but the Fairbanks North Star Borough. We were not seeing recruitment from our own schools into the emergency services in the Fairbanks North Star Borough, and what that created was a retention problem. So we were stepping stool departments throughout this borough, including the City of Fairbanks Fire Department, that traditionally was a long-term career department. They turned into a stepping stone department. They couldn't keep people from the turnover rate. That was one of the keys. Is our university system has a great fire science program. They recruit from outside heavily. They bring in top contenders, top hard to beat contenders, great individuals. The one thing they lack is the desire to stay in the interior. And we saw a vacancy of middle management in the emergency services because of it. We would have lots of recruits, but anybody that had between 8 and 20 years of experience just weren't there to fill the slots for captain positions, BC positions, critical roles that we needed experienced people. So long story short, I'm sorry to make this so long, is when we developed this apprenticeship program, we recognized that problem, that if you look at my 3 captains at North Pole Fire Department, all 3 of them are local born, maybe not born, but local raised, rooted into this community. They don't have the desire to leave, and they are key individuals for North Pole Fire Department. We're lucky to have those 3. Not every department in this borough has that luxury to have staff that are as rooted as we do, and it has been very much hard work to get us there. So this apprentice program is designed to get the individuals from our high schools, North Pole High School, West Valley High School, Ideal Home School, Raven Home School, all of our local students into emergency services, whether it's the fire service, whether it's dispatching, whether it's wildland, whether it's police. And we want our locals applying to help stabilize that retention. So to answer your question, I'm sorry for getting so long, but I'm very passionate about this.
Yeah, I agree. It's a great program, but I just wanted to clarify why it was so limited to only graduating seniors.
Yeah, like I said, we don't have a hard rule that it's not in writing that's what we're drawing for, but that is what the focus is. I can share we have a scoring rubric that is point based, and the closer you are locally to North Pole, the higher score you get in one of the columns on that rubric. So it's not to say that somebody from Wasilla or from Glen Allen or somebody couldn't come up here and compete and get one of these positions. But it is weighted in the one item of the rubric, the closer you get to North Pole.
So if somebody's a little bit older, young 20s, and they would not be allowed to apply?
That they could apply, yes. We have not excluded applications, but like I said,
I thought it was exclusively.
so when we talk to them, we let them know. I mean, everybody that what our goal is. We're very upfront, and we're upfront. I've told all the counselors district wide. Our ideal is if we could pull all 3 from North Pole High School every year. That's not going to happen this year. I could tell you if right now we didn't get a single application from North Pole High School. Lots from our homeschool programs from around. We got North Pole students, but the way things went with the high school, we didn't get a single application out of our high school. A little disappointing, but we're working the younger classmen to communicate, hey, this is something that you can do. This is a career starter. This isn't just something, this isn't a summer job out of high school. This is to get a career started. This is long-term planning for these young people. So I think we're planting seeds, and even is down to the middle school. So future years, we'll see more and more coming from our high schools. So
thank you.
I have a question if you don't.
No,
Okay.
please.
With the paramedic program, I might be putting the cart before the horse, but is this something that you have someone else that is kind of eyeing the prize on this?
I think we have multiple people on staff that would be interested, and we are definitely going to, that'll be the next step, is looking at the next one. So
another rubric for you to
yep.
score your employees with.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, we do have multiple people on staff that have expressed interest in doing that.
Oh, this is phenomenal. I mean, if we can keep that going.
For sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I agree.
Great job, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you to your dedication in that. Any other questions? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Brings us to Madam CFO. No report tonight. All right. I guess that kicks it off to me. City Services just want to give you a heads up that in the next few weeks, the city will be out having the loose gravel picked up. And we plan on reusing that gravel that our city picks up for sidewalks, roadways, anywhere we can use that gravel. It is tough to reuse that a lot of times because there's a lot of trash in that. So we have to be careful about where we use that, but the plan is to pick it up, have it dumped at Public Works and try and use as much of that as we possibly can. It's funny that we all build on gravel and then we spread it out on our streets for traction, but it still costs a lot of money to make that happen. I wish that there was a way to be able to reuse that year after year, to add that in and save a little cost on us, but unfortunately, that's just not the way it is. And then the borough representative, I went to the last borough meeting, April 10th, and there was a lot of talk about a lot of different things. As someone in the audience may well know, but there's an ordinance out there to purchase a new dozer for the landfill. The old one has 10,000 plus hours on that. They talked a lot about the availability like we did a couple of years ago to teleconference in like Mr. Claus is this evening, and how that would work and certain stipulations that they may put on that so people don't take advantage. Ultimately, they came to the realization that we're all adults, and as long as we behave like adults, that should be fine. So that finally ended up passing. There was a resolution proposed by David Guttenberg and Scott Crass to recognize and honor the relationship between Canada and Alaska with all the tariff talk. I believe that's the gist of the reason for it, along with the gas pipeline. I think that as our closest neighbor, it's important to thank the Canadian folks, traveling through there a lot. Northern Canada, Whitehorse, Beaver Creek, they feel more Alaskan than they do Canadian, a lot of them, and they appreciate us coming through and making things happen. So I think it's important to keep that relationship strong. There was also a resolution approving nonprofit entities to apply for grant money through the Social Services Department, which was really neat to see. I tried to add in the Grange Hall and Grange Art Studio because they do a lot of things outside of the city to get that added. But unfortunately, that is an application that has to be done year after year. So my attempts did get thwarted, unfortunately, but they have what they need to be able to file for that next year. And that led me to go down and talk with the Social Services Department down at the borough and find out how that works. It was a program that was pretty important. And that's it from the borough representative. Any questions?
Mr. Mayor, I have one concerning the city services, the reuse of the gravel. With all the trash and, because I've thought about this same thing and mulling it over with multiple people, it's all the trash and the needles and everything. How do you plan on going about and sifting through it and making sure that nothing dangerous is going to be used?
So that's a great question for Cody at our Public Works. They have done this for years and years and years where they've collected that gravel and reused that at Public Works for different projects around the city. Our Public Works Department, as you know, exceptional group of folks who do what they do, and a lot of it is unknown, and that is one of the unknowns that I can't answer for you tonight. But I'm sure if you wanted to give Cody a call, he'd be able to speak to that, or if you wanted to include that in the email you're going to send me about the previous items, I'll get those answers for you and get that over to you.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. I believe that's everyone for department heads and borough representatives. That takes us to ongoing projects. Mr. Corbett, you are up again, sir, with a planning commission update. Thank you for being here.
Good evening once again. So, a few things that are, just the planning commission is, organization that meets and we look at long-range plans and stuff for not only the borough, city, Salcha, all the surrounding area and stuff. So, we have meetings programmed for twice a month. Lately, we've only been meeting once. It's the second and fourth Tuesdays of the month is when we meet. So we recently met the 8th of April, and we had it was a different type of meeting. Normally, when we sat down, the project's presented to us, we hear testimony, and then we vote yay or nay to forward the meeting. This was a kind of a pre-planning session on 3 different projects. Holmes Road, the Chena Lakes access, and then the Pioneer Park boat launch. So what I was coming to, and I am the only North Pole representative that is on that board. So, we have the Holmes Road project is coming up, and it's kind of a long range out there. If you've ever driven Holmes Road, you know that it's just, it's almost like a roller coaster. So what they're planning on doing is resurfacing it. Long range, it looks like it's probably going to be about 2028 by the time that's done. Some of the things that they're looking at, they're going to widen the road. They're determining if they're going to do like they did on Plaque Road with the bicycle lanes on the skirting or try to make an actual bicycle path. Our recommendation was that they need to make a separate path. So it's just, again, it comes down to money. And some of the things that were brought up in that, though, were the speed through Holmes Road. I know I used to drive that every morning, and if I was doing the speed limit, I would get run over. So one of the things that they're talking about putting in there, I think it's called a screed. It's like a jog in the road. So you would be coming down and you would have to physically actually go to the right, go 100 yards and then come back on the left. It's built such that you just couldn't skirt through the oncoming lane. So that is one of the things that they are looking at. The other is possibly a roundabout, especially at the Denison Homes intersection, because there have been many accidents at that intersection. The other one may be Lackloy Hill and intersection also. But those are some of the things that they're looking at. As I said, they had an open house back in October. They're planning another one this spring. They did not set a date or give us that. It is online. And it's just a resurfacing project. There are some right-of-way issues that they are going to have to do. And then pending funding, what they're looking at, like I said, long-term is 2028. So the other one, nearer and dearer to my heart and to us, is the Chena Lakes Recreation Area. This was pretty much a contentious when it first came out. If you're not familiar with it, at the end of Plaque Road, it turns into gravel, and it does butt up right against Chena Lakes access. Gordon Road comes off of Plaque, and there are several houses right in that area. And the original design was going to be on Gordon Road. And luckily, the planners got the information out. Initially, it was kind of obscure. It wasn't well attended, and there wasn't a lot of information out there. The planners actually went out and went door to door to the homeowners and talked to some of them, and they walked the property and I'm very good friends with one of the homeowners right there. And what they did is they walked across the road and they were looking at, talking about what they were going to do. And he said, do me a favor, turn around and look at what you see. And it was his house that they seen. So the idea is they're going to move it in almost 300 to 400 yards. So there's going to be an actual natural wildlife barrier there. There will be a gate, and access to it will be limited. So from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. in the morning, the gate will be locked. The wardens or the Chino Lakes staff will come out and actually lock that gate. They are also planning on putting a fence along the barrier there. The thing that's happening right now is a lot of people will park their trailers and stuff on Gordon Road and then access into the Chino Lakes area with snow machines. So they're trying to eliminate that. The new area will have approximately 30 parking spaces. Eventually they won't have a boat launch there, but they will have a boat dock. So, because it's for non-motorized items. So the new plan, and I talked to some of the homeowners, and they were happy with this. They're still not totally sold on it because it is going to bring more individuals into the area. You bring more individuals in the area, crime is tend to go up. So the idea with it right now is at the corner of Nelson and Plaque, they will pave Plaque all the way down and into the park. And then they'll have a turnaround at the parking area. They're hoping to have the funding to actually put an outhouse in that access area also. And they will have a berm so that people can unload their snow machines there. There's no trailer parking in that area. The original intent and idea for this was because the people who live on Plaque and Nelson in that area, to get to Chino Lakes, you have to drive almost 50 minutes to a half hour. Because you have to go all the way down Nelson Road and then come back in and come back down another 8 miles. So the idea behind this was if we provide them access, it will get some more usage and make it easier for those folks that live in the area. Currently, there is no planned signage to go up like on Badger Road or Plaque or Nelson. So it will be kind of a word of mouth and locals in the area know that they have access to this. So the next step, there is a planning meeting is going to be on June. They did not set a date. That will be at Chino Lakes. It will be a barbecue and the community is going to be invited. The idea is to let them know where they're going forward with this and how they're going to do it. The advertised bids are going to be going out, and they're hoping January 2026 is when this will be funded and they can start. So next year is the plan for that. So, and I live just off Black Road, and I am a little worried about some of the traffic and stuff that's going that I think we'll see a little bit of an increase. One of the things that I foresee, especially if they're gonna, when they build this parking lot, there will be a paved trail all the way around to the other side of the lake as well. So it gives access to non-motorized vehicles or bicycles and stuff. So, which is a good thing. That's hopefully they can do a very good job and help out and spruce up the community there by doing that. So that is, I believe, all I have.
Greg, if I could ask a quick question.
Please.
I know when I went to some of the original pre-planning meetings back in August and I believe November, a lot of the residents were concerned about paving the Plaque extension and the water runoff and drainage entering their front yards, and that was a real bone of contention. I'm glad to hear that they moved that down, but have they handled that paving where they're going to remove a foot of road surface to be able to bring that road so it doesn't drain and put in a proper ditch?
Yes, from my understanding, John, I can't think of his last name, they did go out with the engineers and they are planning to try to keep it at the height that it is now or a little lower so that they don't get that feed into the neighboring yards and subdivisions.
Okay, thank you for that.
Got a quick-
Please, yep.
I don't know if you can answer this
Go ahead.
question or not, but that road currently, if I'm not mistaken, is in the Moose Meadows.
Mhm.
Is
Yes,
that
the
correct?
Moose Meadow subdivision. yes.
So, once it's paved and the parking lot put in, who, does that go out of
that-
the
and
road
then-
service area or does?
So that was a good question. Yes, so the park will be responsible for the parking area from the gate to that, but the state will pick up. Right now, the state does also plows plaque. So the subdivisions are all contracted out through the different subdivisions. But plaque itself will be plowed by DOT.
Okay, great.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Corbett.
All right.
Appreciate
Well, it's
that.
my pleasure. Thank you.
That brings us to item 11B, Mr. Jacobson and the Giving Machine update, sir.
Well, thank you. The 2024 Light the World Giving Machine at North Pole Santa Claus House was a resounding success. That's due to our community's generosity and caring for others. In the 19 days that the giving machines were in operation, over $80,000 was raised.
Oh,
And so I'm just going to go down each of the charities and how much they received. They pretty much equaled out to be the same amount, except for the Breast Cancer Detection Center. Their price point on their items was lower than the others. They had as many items donated, but the value was much less. So it wasn't like people didn't support them. It's just that you didn't have to spend that much money to help with some of their items in the machine. So the Armed Services YMCA received a check for $14,465. The Breast Cancer Detection Center of Alaska, $6,838. Fairbanks Food Bank, $14,272. Fairbanks Senior Center, $14,680. Resource Center for Parents and Children, $13,630. IDE Global, 4,690, and over 400 chickens were purchased through that program. And UNICEF, $12,052. There were 3,203 items donated through the giving machine with over 900 transactions. So you can extrapolate that as if a family was there or a couple or a single individual with that number of transactions, you can extrapolate that to over 3,000 people probably went through the Santa Claus house or for the giving machine experience. Our per capita donation was phenomenal. When you take the $80,000 and divide it by the borough population, it was 84 cents per capita. We doubled what Anchorage raised. They had a larger population, but their per capita was half of what we had. So again, it speaks to the generosity of our community, and I'm just really proud of what it did for our community during that time of year. There's been a lot of press about it. I was surprised. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints sponsored the operations of the machines and covered all the credit card transactions and put machines in 107 different locations around the world. And so every 6 months we have a general conference where the members of the church get together and they can attend in person or through streaming activities. And part of the World Report, and you can go on YouTube and just do World Report 2025, it will show a little clip of North Pole giving machine with Santa Claus. So millions of people 2 weeks ago saw that little bit about North Pole. So we are getting a lot of press So just really, again, thank you for everybody who participated in that and for the support of council members and the community. Thank you.
Any questions? Councilman Jacobson, thank you very much for donating your time and making this such a success, along with a lot of your friends. Pope Francis, who died this morning, I took a quote right out of his book. A little bit of mercy makes the world less cold and more just. And I think that everything that the Giving Machine was about certainly touches on that, and our community is super giving. So appreciative of those efforts and those wonderful charities that receive that money. With that, I'd like to just call for a 5-minute break here so we can get up, move around, use the restroom, get a refill on our water.
Move to suspend rules. Official.
Second.
There you go.
Okay. Hmm.
there is
And
no
there is
walking
sometimes where
path
I'm
in the middle there.
See that in the middle.
addressed that.
It's gonna be a long day.
I know.
Actually, when they were talking about.
Hey, get on there.
And that's
Yeah, and I always go down to first.
yeah.
Well, if you're checking it,
We're not all here.
still there. It was never paid.
Too late.
Revenue for walking path
Capture
in
more
there. So
people
he's gonna
after the
address that,
stuff,
see if we can.
you know, like the rest of the values.
Thank you for the break. Madam Clerk, are we back online?
We are, yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Welcome back. That moves us to item 12A, unfinished business. Can I get a move to adopt, please?
Move to adopt ordinance 2025-03, amending Title 2, Chapter 36, Section 480, Insurance and Disability Insurance Benefits.
Second that. Discussion? Okay, seeing none. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
On ordinance 2025-03, amending Title II, Chapter 36, Section 480, Insurance and Disability Benefits. Mr. Claus? Mr. Claus, are you there?
Yes,
back.
hello, sorry, I'm here.
Did you vote yes for ordinance 2503?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Mr. Brandt?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
And Mayor Church?
Yes. Would anyone like to change their vote? Seeing none. Thank you, Madam Clerk. That brings us on to item 13A, ordinance 25-04, amending the motor vehicle impound and state forfeiture code. I would like to move to introduce that ordinance.
Just a point of clarification.
Sir.
When are we having public testimony on it? It should be staff presentation, public testimony, and then a motion to introduce or adopt.
Understood. Yep, we certainly missed that on our last one. Thank you for pointing that out.
Oh, yes.
Should we like to go back? Okay. Wonderful. Thank you for
Oh, sure.
pointing that out.
Yeah, so I'm presenting,
If you'll wait, we don't have a second. On the motion.
No, we don't do the motion yet. It's not before us. It's the staff report, then public testimony, then we make a motion.
Okay.
It becomes our discussion then and not a public discussion.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you, Councilman Jacobson. I appreciate you.
so I'm presenting a change to the ordinance in question governing our vehicle impounds. And this update, what it does is introduces some clearer and more objective standards to guide our officers in their decisions. This change reflects our department's commitment both to public safety and also making sure that we stay ahead of evolving legal expectations. This is in response to both recent and past court rulings on what's called the community caretaking function of the police, which basically governs what are the standards, what are the reasons by which someone's car can be impounded legally. For a little context, the court in several instances has emphasized that police may impound vehicles under the community caretaking role in the interest of public safety. But the decision to impound must be reasonable, it must be consistent, and it must be based on objective criteria. Our current code does allow a lot of flexibility, but it lacks some of the specific details that courts expect to see today. So to address this, we've introduced a change to the ordinance to add some more impound standards to our code. Vehicles will only be impounded if they pose a clear public safety risks. And these standards align with state case law and modern case law, ensuring that both our policies and procedures continue to be legally sound. It was also vetted by our city attorney prior to introducing it to you folks. That's all I have. If you have any questions. Yes, sir.
Question I didn't bring up before. So let's say somebody gets arrested for DUI and they don't have somebody that can come pick up the vehicle. And that it's not. They're taken in, arrested, taken to jail, bond out. What prevents them from going back and picking up their car while they're still drunk and driving it home?
So the situation where we would leave it on the side of the road would generally never happen, because leaving an unsecured vehicle on the side of the road, one of the stipulations in the ordinance change here itself pertains to whether that vehicle is at risk for theft or damage or presents itself as a hazard on the roadway. So historically, we have abated that vehicle from the road. We don't just leave it there. Either a friend comes and picks it up, or if it meets the criteria of they were driving inside the city limits and they're driving DUI, and so our ordinance states that it will be impounded. If it meets that criteria, then it is impounded. Humorously enough, that issue has happened in the Fairbanks area, and essentially what they did was not so much the vehicle issue, but the person can no longer bail out of jail. They actually had an individual years ago that 3 times was taken to jail, got out of jail, went, drove his car again, got another DUI, and that cycle repeated. So we would take steps both to ensure that if there is another option, we can take that. But if the vehicle does need to be impounded, we would impound it based on this new criteria.
So may I, through the mayor? So in essence, this is, we are going to impound, but these are the options like that we can leave it here. So it's not like reverse. It's not like, well, maybe we'll impound it, but this is more like reverse, going through the question, like we're going to impound it, but can it be safely here? Maybe anyways, is that?
Yes, it's important to understand the context. Is a vehicle that has met the already existing criteria of a motor vehicle impound in the city of North Pole. That being the case, there has to be more there than just it's met our city ordinance, it's a default impound, right? And 99.9% of the time, there is a public safety element to it. The person's driving drunk, they're driving without a license, they're driving with no insurance, there's something else going on. This just codifies all of that rather than it just being this really minimalistic language, and with the language shall, there's no discretion in the word shall. With may, now officers are free to use their discretion and make good judgment and good calls on the side of the road.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay.
Is there anybody that would like to testify to this ordinance in the chamber?
Hi, my name is Sandra Rolfe. I think this is a great improvement to the current language that we have out there that was actually fairly contradictory to itself, because in one section, it allowed for or required impoundment, but then a later section where it is corrected now said impoundment can only occur with an arrest, which made it problematic when impoundments for failure to have insurance occurred, because there was no arrest with those. It's a citation. So there's no arrest. So it does fix that issue. I do still have concerns with this still. I like the fact that there is a list of criteria, but in the end, it's still left to officer discretion. So regardless of if all of these are met or not, under the current language, the officer can just say, I don't like you and I'm going to impound your vehicle anyways. That's my concern with it. It is a huge improvement to what currently is in code, but leaving it still at the end completely to officer discretion is a concern that I have.
And what would be your way of correcting that if it's not officer discretion?
If you took out the section there that says that at the discretion of the officer, instead saying that if these things, basically these four things are there, that it can be done safely, it's not at risk of theft, that the registered owner consented to it, obviously. The consented to it, I don't see that necessarily as being an issue one way or another. Most of the time, as stated, it's the person that is driving that is the registered owner. If it's not the registered owner, there's already a process in which the registered owner can get it back without necessarily having to pay the impound fees and everything. There's a process for that currently, so that's not an issue. But the other ones, even if it can be safely done, even if there's not a danger, it can still be impounded with the language of leaving it at the discretion of the officer. If you take out that language and saying that if it can be done safely, it's not a risk, and that there's no danger to the public by allowing it to not be impounded, then impoundment does not occur. That takes away the issue of officer discretion and the officer just saying, I don't like the way you interacted with me today, or we've had future, previous bad interactions and I have vendetta. That can still occur under this current language. If you take out the discretion of the officer and say it has to have these three things met for it to remain and not be impounded, that takes that issue away.
So if it's not to the discretion of the officer, someone has to ask these questions. And I think that's what this might be going to. So if it's not at the discretion of the officer asking these questions, who there is liable to answer those questions to make sure that the law is fulfilled?
So the officer is still the one asking the questions, but under the way that it's currently written, the officer could answer those questions and say, it's not dangerous for it to be left on the side of the road. It's not at risk of theft. It wouldn't be dangerous to allow the person to take the vehicle or allow somebody else to take the vehicle and still choose to impound it under the current language. There's nothing that would prevent the officer from doing it. We have a set of guidelines. That's what this here is. That's what those four things are, is a set of guidelines, but it's the officer's discretion on how they're done. Because it says he still may impound. So he may choose, even if all of those things, it's safe for it to be there. If all of those things are still present, he could still say, well, I don't care. I don't like you. I don't like the way you've interacted with me, whatever the reason being, and can still choose to impound.
I do kind of see what Mr. Keller is saying. The questions have to be asked and answered by somebody. So it's at, is it safe to leave it on the side? Or is it at a risk for theft? Well, the officer, you can still say, yes, it's at a risk for theft, so I'm going to impound it, So somebody has to ask those questions. It's the officer on site that has to ask the questions. And it's so arbitrary. No set of rules to determine if it's at risk of theft.
Correct.
Is it at risk of theft? And the officer can say, yeah, I don't like you. So yeah, I think it is. So I'm going to impound it. So that's still leaving it up to the officer's discretion, even if we take that language out, don't you think?
I do agree. It's still going to leave it up to the officer's discretion. It's very hard to get around that. It goes further to have the information in there currently under the rules. Like I said, they contradict themselves. There is no leeway. It has to be impounded because the primary section says that it shall be impounded. Later, there's a section that says it has to be with an arrest or an order from the court. This new
This has
rendition
addressed
fixes that, addresses that, but it still leaves holes and issues. And I don't necessarily know the right way to fix it, but this still leaves issues with the way that it's worded.
Just trying to think of a better way to word it, because if you take out at the officer's discretion, then the officer still has to use his discretion on the questions. See what I'm saying?
The way that it's currently worded, it gives an advisory that you should review these things, but it doesn't require him to review these things and just says it's at the discretion of the officer. It says he should look at these things, but he's not required to look at those things. He's not required to make a finding that they either are or are not present. It says that those are the things that he should take into consideration, or that are being looked at, because this is what the court is going to look back at if it does get, or a hearing officer, if it does get appealed, if somebody appeals the impoundment. These are the things they're going to be looking at. The court's going to say, okay, are these the things that are being looked at? And as the lieutenant stated, these are the things the courts are already looking at, but it now puts it into code. But there's nothing in it that actually says he has to, the officer who's
It does
doing
say
it
it.
has to.
When deciding whether to impound, the officer shall consider those. That is a requirement, not optional.
But it still in the end leaves it at he shall consider it, but it doesn't require him to consider it one way or another. If these things are present, he doesn't impound. If things aren't present, he cannot impound. It's still at the end, yeah, he's considering those, but it doesn't put it one way or another as to what that consideration means.
We change the word consider to determine. Would that fix that problem?
Might.
The officer shall determine whether, rather.
And if I mean, I think that goes
I mean,
in the right
completely
direction.
agree with what you're saying. and I'm
If
just
he
struggling with the way to
determines,
word it.
right, if he determines that it's X, Y, and Z, impound is not required or something like that, I think goes further, or gets to the gist of it. Right now, it says he has to consider those, but it doesn't say once he considers them, what he has to do with it.
If we change the word considered to determine, do you think that would fix the issue you have?
It might.
Thank you for your testimony. Any other questions? Okay. Lieutenant Smith, would you like to speak to that?
I think you have
Yeah,
another.
we have another.
I am so sorry. I'm sorry, I didn't see you stand up. I apologize.
Yeah, if I can, I totally understand her concern and where she's coming from, and I would like to address that in a couple points. In the first place, there's often a misconception over what officer discretion actually is, right? I think a lot of people, when they hear that word, they think that that is an independent judgment made based on the opinion of a particular individual officer, right? Where I essentially just apply my own reasoning or my own perception alone to whatever the situation is, whether that's choosing to arrest somebody for DV or choosing to impound their car. But in fact, that's not really what officer discretion is, because officer discretion requires a set standard and then a decision that's based or made based on my observance of that standard and whatever the life situation is I've encountered, right? Did they meet the threshold for domestic violence in the 4th degree? I have the law, and then I apply that to the situation that I observe, right? That is officer discretion, and so the standards outlined here provide us that set standard. The officer then takes those standards and he overlays them on top of whatever the situation is, right? Does it meet this criteria or not? If it does, then he proceeds with the impound. If it does not, he does not. There's also a understandable concern on the part of people to so structure the guidelines that there is no discretion, right? It's like a flow chart. If this, then that on the part of the officer. But I can tell you, based not only on studies and statistics and my own experience, that that is a mistake. Because if you do not allow officers to make judgment calls in this type of situation, you will end up producing what you're trying to fight against, which is injustice, right? If I have this codified as he shall impound versus he may, what I've done is I've taken away the ability of the officer. And I'll just be totally honest with you. We've been violating our code as written for years, because there have been hundreds of circumstances where if we followed the shall, we would have produced the very same injustice in the life of those people we were dealing with that we've sworn to not create and to fight against, right? There have been hundreds of examples where we had every right by how it's worded to impound that car, but based on the situation at hand, my sergeant calls me and says, I don't want to impound this car, and here's why. And I say, you know what? That's the right thing to do because we're not going to produce the very thing we're fighting against. And that's overwhelmingly the case. Yes, there are people out there that may develop some type of a chip on their shoulder against somebody. Do you know what happens when they arise? We identify them immediately because the other officers go, that's not right. He's making that decision based on his emotions and his feelings. We need to address that. And then I address that individual officer. And that is the far wiser route to go rather than trying to completely lock the officer down into a particular thing. He needs to be able to make those calls. And the point the two of you are bringing up is absolutely true. It's discretion no matter what way you look at it, because the officer's the one making the evaluation. I'm the guy, I'm the only one there on the side of the road. I've got to make the best decision I can. And that's why there's an appeals process, because maybe mistakes are made sometimes, but there's that available there. So totally appreciate and understand where she's coming from, seeking to make sure that there's a guided level of officer discretion here. It's not just open window to whatever he or she wants to do. Any questions? Sir,
Would you be opposed to replacing consider with determine?
I'm not opposed to it. It's semantics. It means the same
Well,
thing.
exactly. This all goes down to the semantics.
Yeah.
Because whether we do that or not, the officer still is one that determines
Correct.
whether, it's just wording.
Correct.
Legally, if it saves us a hassle down the road by changing one word.
Legally, it won't, because there's no difference in the legal standard of those two words. Either way, the officer is the one making the observation and rendering the decision. So I would push for a level of understanding on the part of the people evaluating this and the members of the public that are evaluating this more than I would to just change words for the sake of making it seem a different way than it is. That's really how it is. That's what it means. Thank you.
More public comment, please.
Thank you, Tammy Wilson. Live in the Badger area as a non-legal entity here. My concern here, one, I love that you took out shall. I agree. Making it may helps the officer at that moment to make the decision. What I don't understand is, so you have 4 questions here, right? So does one question being answered yes make it to where it needs to be impounded? I don't know, because it doesn't say. It just says they must take these into consideration. A vehicle 24 hours parked next to the road is probably okay. The same vehicle being parked there 7 days could at some point make much more of an endangerment than if they're there for 24 hours. And that's not addressed here, because if I'm looking at it, I mean, you would hope somebody come get the car right away, but we all know that doesn't always happen. So, and then the other part, as you're talking about discretionary and what it doesn't mean, if I read this, it would seem to me if an officer made any of these determinations, I don't know what I would be appealing, right? Because I'd go in and say, well, my car was parked here, here's where the white line is. This is one of the safest areas in the neighborhood, because maybe I believe it's the safest neighborhood, because I think most of North Pole is pretty safe. But there are people that would disagree with me. I guess that's just what discretionary, I think, means to most people who don't know what the legal, back and forth, maybe understanding legal evaluation, maybe they all mean the same. But if I read this and it looked like the officer had all the discretion, I really, although it says I can appeal, I really don't have any ability to appeal, because my thoughts and my experience would be very different than that officer. And then the other part is 4 officers, just like 4 attorneys, could look at the same case and come up with 4 different answers. And I think that's kind of what we've been kind of fighting on since what, happened last year, is trying to make it clearer for individuals so that if things do happen that shouldn't, that they really do have an even playing field to appeal. In here, the way it reads, and as a layman, that I take it as, is that the discretion's to the officer. Yes, you can appeal it, but there's no way to know the definitions of safety, vandalism, safe area, and how long it could be safe being left in that place. And, I mean, I really applaud that you're trying to do this, but I think it still will be very confusing for people out there. And then I don't know who it is that actually looks at the appeal. and how many pictures we're supposed to take of our car, before it gets towed away. So I like the may, but all these, I think, just make it even more convoluted. But again, I'm not the one in court.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Mayor, I do have a clerk, can you?
Please, go ahead, sir.
I notice on the ordinance 2025, it says it was introduced April 7th and it's up for adoption tonight on April 21st, but it's also listed under new business. So are we introducing this ordinance tonight?
It's being introduced.
Okay.
We were trying to get it on the last agenda. I apologize for
No
the
problem.
dates.
I just wanted to make the correct motion. So move to introduce ordinance 2025-04, an ordinance of the City of North Pole amending Title 10, Chapter 2, Sections 10, 010, 020, and 030 of the Motor Vehicle Impoundment and State Forfeiture Code.
Second.
Oh, Santa got it.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Real quick, just for grammatical, in D, we need a comma after, if not impounded. Let me go back here. Line 52.
I can add that as housekeeping.
Yep.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Just as a thought, Mayor.
Yeah, please.
I should have brought this up when you were speaking, lieutenants. What would happen if in paragraph B, a vehicle used in the alleged violation may be impounded and then not cross out at the discretion of the officer or otherwise, and it just will say may be impounded in accordance with this section. When deciding whether to impound, the officer shall consider the following factors. It doesn't remove the officer's ability or discretion. It just doesn't state it out there. Is that going to be an impact to clarity of the procedure for this?
It's lines 44, Madam Clerk, if you wouldn't mind running down to that 44, 45, 46.
I mean,
Thank you.
that in my opinion would fall into kind of what I was discussing before. I mean, the real issue is going to come down, and I would partially address the other concern that was brought up. The appeal is for dealing with misconduct, right? If an officer does something wrong, there has to be a route to have that remedied, right? There has to be a way for the public to bring that to the attention of the agency through a legal channel appropriately. And so that's important to understand. The appeal is not designed for someone who has a different opinion than the officer. They have to present their own case. They have to present their own evidence that shows these were violated by the officer. That's why there's an objective third party, an administrative reviewer that looks at both sides of the evidence and arbitrates and decides if something not in accordance to this took place. So, I mean, if it makes people more comfortable with this to remove those words, I don't see a problem with it. Legally, it's not going to change anything to have those or not have them.
Thank you very much.
Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
On ordinance 2025-04, an ordinance of the City of North Pole amending Title 10, Chapter 2, Sections 010, 020, 030 of the Motor Vehicle Impoundment and State Forfeiture Code. Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Mr. Claus?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Brandt?
Yes.
And Mayor Church?
Yes. Would anyone like to change their vote? Seeing none. That moves up forward. That brings us to item 13B, Ordinance 2025-05, amending the code to clarify sales tax on nicotine and vape products. This ordinance was brought forth out of concern and clarity to clean up our code to include nicotine and nicotine products that were brought into the city and not being taxed. And yearly, we receive a few calls about nicotine products being brought in that aren't tobacco that I believe when this code was written would have included that, but products have since changed to not be covered under the way our code is written, which is why we looked at it to try and deal with it and make it as inclusive as possible so that a few years down the road, we won't have to look at it again. Any further discussion on that?
But we haven't moved to.
If that public comment.
Yeah. Do I have any public that would like to speak to this ordinance?
Move to introduce ordinance 2025-05, an ordinance of the city of North Pole amending municipal code title 4, chapter 8, section 020 to clarify sales tax on nicotine and vape products.
Second.
And then does somebody want to amend or make a amendment to pull nicotine pouches and nicotine gum were the two things you wanted to stress?
Move to amend.
State your amendment, sir.
On line 34, striking nicotine gum and nicotine pouches, as these are actually should be included in line 53.
Second.
Mr. Mayor, I think if we do that, there'll still be some confusion on line 33 where it just says nicotine.
See line 50.
33, he said,
see
Mr.
what
Williams,
the-
33. I agree with that.
But we are taxing nicotine.
But we
We're
are.
just not taxing the cessation of nicotine as a medical.
How would you word it?
Or just, if it's not, preclude it somewhere. You know,
Oh,
so
I see what
that,
you mean.
yeah.
Okay.
Could you explain preclude for my little brain?
Well, if we, on one of the lines, just say, does not include.
That's line 50.
Okay, so
It
yeah,
is.
yeah,
you know.
line 53,
Okay.
which that might actually be a good idea.
And the amendment was to move nicotine gum and nicotine patches to line 53, correct?
No, just strike nicotine.
Yeah,
gum.
so that specific language was to strike it.
Okay.
So we can vote that one down and then move to move to
Or we can amend your.
amend the amendment.
Original
have-
motion.
Have the maker of the motion withdraw, and then you could redo it again and fix both lines.
I will withdraw my
Was
amendment.
there a question of whether we would have to bring this back up and later add into? But if we only struck those words, we wouldn't have to.
The attorney doesn't need to get involved on this.
So, Mr. Keller, you have retracted your motion,
That is the correct political word, yes.
and Santa, you don't contest that or have an issue?
I don't contest it.
Okay.
Move to amend this ordinance on line item 34 to remove nicotine gum and nicotine patches and put them in on line 53D, supplies, and then in parentheses, we can say nicotine, nicotine patches related to assisting in the cessation of tobacco use is exempt from this tax.
I'll second that. Yeah, thank you. Discussion.
Madam Clerk, could you go ahead and read what you have for line 53 now with that?
Patches.
Patches.
Pouches, patches.
Patches.
Patch.
Got that.
Yep.
That works.
Suitable?
That's suitable.
Okay.
Is there any other cessation products out there besides those?
There is a nicotine lozenge that could also be added in.
So that's where that's
As cessation, I feel as though cessation would cover all of those stop quitting replacement type devices. And this was a discussion that we did have in our staff meeting and kind of went rounds on the wording of D as a staff, because the same arguments that came up here this evening were arguments that the staff also brought up with the way it was originally worded. So there are lozenges. I'm sure there's a spray, a nicotine spray. I mean, but
So Mayor, what would happen if we just include this? Because right now it says to include nicotine gum or nicotine patches. We add the words to include but not limited to nicotine gum or nicotine patches. That opens the door for any new marketing products that would be used in the cessation.
so are you wanting to amend your original motion to say that?
Yeah, or I can withdraw it and then we could bring it.
No, it's fine. Let's not go round and round here. We're all in this late hour, sir. I think that that is a valid discussion based on this, and we will have a second reading of this. So any further discussion or issues? Could you read what you have, Madam Clerk, as line D currently?
We were going to add to include but not limited.
To include but not limited to.
But not limited to. Okay. To include but not limited to nicotine gum and nicotine patches.
Any other discussion? Okay. Madam Clerk, please.
On the ordinance, on the amendment, Mr. Brandt,
Yes.
Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. Claus,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yeah.
Mr. Jacobson,
Yes.
Mayor Church,
Yes.
and on the ordinance as amended, Mr. Keller.
What are we voting on now?
So you made
Yep,
an
we
amendment
made the
and you
amendment.
voted on that. Now you
Yep.
have to vote on whether you're continuing to advance this ordinance.
For next week.
Correct.
Okay. Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Brandt,
Yes.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson, Mr. Claus,
Yes.
and Mayor Church.
Yes.
Thank
Would
you.
anyone like to change their vote? Okay. Seeing none. Thank you. Okay, item C, 13C is consented. That brings us on to 13D, the annual health insurance update by Meritain. We did talk about that a little bit. Do I need to bring that to the floor, Madam Clerk, before
Just a motion to postpone to the next regular meeting.
I move to postpone the annual health insurance update until the regular city council meeting of May 5th, 2025.
Second.
Schuster, thank you. On the postponement, Mr. Schuster?
I have a
Yes.
question.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should have.
Public comment,
Were-
questions?
Were we going to do a work
We talked about doing a work session. We'll have to find out when the insurance people when they're available, and then we'll mesh it together with your guys' schedule. It's going to have to be sometime next week if you don't want to do it Monday of the council meeting. Mayor Church is out for the rest of this week.
I would really like to have a work session on this. I had so many questions about what was in here, and I don't feel comfortable talking about a lot of that in the open meeting because it HIPAA laws.
That would be an executive session that we could actually do that, but
Yeah.
I believe a work session,
But there's
especially with
also
new
questions
members.
about like this laser and stuff like that that I did not understand complete. So I think we need a work session on this.
Is it acceptable if we find out with the insurance company what evenings work for them, and then I get back to you guys sometime next week is acceptable? Yeah.
As soon as possible, but, oh, yeah, because Mayor Church just got this, right? Yeah.
Is next Monday, or I guess we'll have to see. We'll have to see what works with the insurance people, but I will be in touch with you guys tomorrow.
Friday would be acceptable, Madam Clerk. I'll be
Friday?
back in town late Thursday night, so that won't be any issue if that works. I don't know. I'll let Madam Clerk take care of that.
We have to, yeah, we have to find what information we're going to be presenting too. So what it'll hopefully they have answers for us.
Any other discussion on the postponement? Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
On the postponement of the Maritime update, Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Claus,
Yes.
Mr. Brandt,
Yes.
Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson,
Yes.
Mayor Church.
Yes. Would anyone like to change their vote? Seeing none, that brings us on to item 13E, a request to a council to approve a vehicle for $75,465.05.
All right, let's make this fast. I'm hoping that you'll approve the purchase, as he said, a 2024 Dodge Durango V6 patrol vehicle. It is fully upfitted for the cost of $75,465. This will be funded through our vehicle fleet fund, which is allocated specifically for that purpose. It has a current balance right now of $89,455, so it'll leave about $14,000 in there for shipping our 2024 vehicles up to us. We ordered two Dodge Durangos last February. They have yet to arrive. So that is a large part of the reason why I am hopefully transitioning to a different supplier. We're looking to go through a place called Utilitac. We started kind of east side of the country, worked our way west all the way to Washington. Stuff in Washington was way more expensive than I expected it to be, so we went back east to an outfit in Pennsylvania. So what this does, it allows us to get a vehicle here hopefully by August. Additionally, rather than drawing our account into the negative, I'm hoping to leave a surplus in there going into next year with our rollover and our tax calculations, so that hopefully we're at a strategic point this year where we can make do with one car. Not trying to set a new precedent. We need 2 cars a year. It's just standard. But we're at a point where we could do that and then be ahead in that account every year after that. So that's my goal. I don't know if you can see on your memo there, but we have about a 34,000 mile average across the fleet, all vehicles, and we want to keep that down there around $50,000 miles on average. All right, I'll take any questions.
Do we discuss it before we move to?
Public testimony, and
Public
then we
testimony.
do a motion, and then we can discuss.
Okay.
Is there anybody here for public testimony on this item? I have nobody signed up and there's nobody in the room.
All right, thank you.
Move to approve the purchase of a 2025 patrol vehicle.
Second.
Any discussion?
I do. I'm
Questions,
sorry,
please.
I do have some questions.
Go ahead.
Oh, you're good.
Is this going to be replacing a current vehicle or is it added to the fleet?
Yes,
So
we.
the vehicle that it's replacing, what,
It'll be a Ford Explorer. It's about the 2016, 27 range, and it's got getting up close to about 100,000 miles on it.
what's not a Durango?
No.
Okay, that was my main question because I was thinking that a lot of these a lot of the equipment could be reused.
Yes.
We're not replacing a Durango with a Durango, then that doesn't make.
Some of it,
Some of it can be, but
Yeah.
I'm looking at like the partition, you know, it says here that it will work on a 2018 plus Durango
right.
facing a.
Hmm.
We reuse.
And just for knowledge, the reason we go with Durangos at this point is they're about $7,000 cheaper per unit. I would prefer the Explorers, honestly, but $14,000 is a lot of money.
Question. With our recent experience with the Durangos, because we just switched over maybe 2 years ago, 1 year ago,
Longer.
has it been?
Yeah, we've
Wow.
had Durangos for 5-6 years.
Okay. I've been here for longer than I thought. Anyways, because I remember being in the meetings when we made that switch, right? Have you seen an increase in repairs and things going down with the Durangos than you didn't with the Explorers?
Yes, but apparently we had a very good run of Explorers. I'll just put it that way.
Okay.
Because I've talked to those techs and I've talked to those mechanics and these are 100,000-mile cars max. And we have had a couple catastrophic, like an engine blow up with them. Good news though, they are extending their powertrain warranty, Dodge is, up to 100,000 miles. So everything that's happened up to this point has been fully covered by the warranty. And since we're rolling through those vehicles well before that anyway, I'm not terribly worried about it. It takes it off the line for a while, but Sergeant Dykeman's going to get a car with a brand new engine in it here in about a month. So
Can I have one more question, Mr. Mayor?
Please.
So mileage, yes, like understand, but is there an hours? Not the, yeah, yeah, yeah. So hours wise that the engines have, do we track that? Because we know that the miles don't equate to the hours. We're in Alaska, I'll give you that.
Right.
Number two,
we don't have the ability to in the functionality in the software on that because it's not a tractor or a piece of heavy equipment. The mileage is an accurate enough estimate. I mean, you have the higher mileage and you start seeing. I get what you're saying, but I wouldn't say the hours contribute enough data to really override just figuring the mileage.
Thank you.
Yes.
So when we sell these police vehicles, are we stripping out all of the equipment and selling them as a Explorer? Selling them as
We are selling them as an Explorer.
about
We do, yes.
thing back to back seats back. So are we going to be retaining all of the parts that they take off, like the back seat and stuff like that? Will they put that stuff up with the vehicle? So when we do need to sell it, have the seat to.
Good question. I would, our current or our previous outfitter was not doing that. I could certainly check with the current one if they're willing to do that. I can tell you it has not mattered at auction.
I know that we had one that.
Oh, man.
If I may, the back seat was put back in on that and it went to auction, yes. But that the same question that you had, I did already talk with Lieutenant Smith about asking them if they could ship it with the original seat so that when we do time that car out, that vehicle out, we're able to put that plush brand new seat back in to be able to take care of that. And I know that that is something he's going to look at asking. A lot of times when they ship vehicles, they don't want extra stuff in the vehicle. So it may be an additional cost to ship our own back seat for that vehicle separately.
Backseat in the new backseat, why they can't.
I don't make the rules, sir. I know it's something that
Also, if
they're going to look into.
if there's no use for the one that's in the car, there's not really a reason for us to pull it out. There's nothing inherently prohibitive about leaving the plastic seat in there. We just don't want the cage, right? We don't want someone locking themselves in the back of there accidentally. So there have been some, we've just left the plastic seat if there's no future plans to use that thing. But we do scavenge quite a bit. We do our best to roll stuff into the next car.
Okay, that was
Yeah.
one other quick question. In your memorandum, one of the reasons you gave for going to utility lifetime warranty,
Yes.
but they are in Pennsylvania.
They did
So-
say they would send someone,
Oh, they
or
will.
either send someone or the shop of our choice
That's
here.
what I was wondering.
Yeah.
If we need to have something repaired here, will they cover that cost, or is it at their?
Nope, I did check that. Thank you.
And yeah, please, Mr. Jacobson.
I don't think we should get wrapped around the axle about having them ship the original seat with the vehicle. I think that's just going to be an unnecessary expense on the city's part to have the plastic seat and the plush seat arriving with the vehicle. When it goes to auction at, 50,000 miles or higher, having a nice new plush seat in the back is not going to matter. It's going to be either used for parts, or it's going to be somebody who can go down to a salvage yard and buy a seat to put in the back of that car. But we're spending money because we want to have a nice seat when we put this broken down police car in auction.
If I may, I wasn't suggesting to pay extra to bring it up. I was just saying that if they can, just throw it in there for free. I'm not saying that we should pay because we have to store it for a number of years and things
Right.
like that. So
Okay.
if it's going to cost us money to do that, no, I agree that but if they can just throw it in there, are going to be used and reuse partition, and there won't be a back.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Just make sure you're speaking into the mic so that Councilman Claus can hear you. That's all. Any other further discussion?
I got one question.
Yeah, go
Did
ahead.
it ship by weight?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. Last one's had about 2 miles worth of gas left in the tank. Ask me how I know that.
In a gas station that's 2.5 miles away?
I have a picture of me holding the gas can with Detective Cash on the side of the road in Anchorage. Yeah.
Any other further discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
On the request to council to approve the police vehicle for $75,465.05, Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. Brandt,
Yes.
Mr. Claus,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson, and Mayor Church.
Yes.
Thank you. And that brings us to council member comments. And Santa, since you're online, we'll have you go first this evening.
Well, it's nice. It's nice and warm down here in Florida. Hope you're all having a wonderful time up there with the winter weather. Look forward to seeing you in about 10 days.
Is that rubbing it in?
I believe it was. Yes, sir.
Taste your own medicine, Benny.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you, Santa. And let's go ahead and start out with our new council members. Mr. Brandt.
Thank you. I want to say I'm honored to have been chosen, and I appreciate everybody that chose me. Every single one of the people that put their name forward would have been an excellent choice up here. I think every single one of them was fantastic, and so I do appreciate you voting for me. So I listened to every one of them was asked a question: what did they want to achieve as a council member? And I thought it would only be right for me to try to work towards some of the things that they brought up. So, Mr. Schuster, I'll let you speak for yourself. But since the other ones aren't here, Mr. Wally and Mr. Dotson didn't really have any specifics, so I can't speak to that. But Mr. Gendro, he spoke about reducing the sales tax by 0.5%. And I have been working for several months on a proposal that I was going to bring before the council, not necessarily to reduce the sales tax right away, but eventually to be able to. I'm still waiting for some numbers from staff. I put in some FOIA requests quite a while ago, and I know they've been really busy with the audit and everything. So she's going to get me those numbers as soon as she can. So I will be working on that. Ms. Rolfe, she talked a lot about more neighborhood patrols and more community policing, less speed traps on the highway, that type of thing. I do agree with that. I would like to see the police patrolling my area more. I spend a lot of time out in my yard, and I can count on one hand the number of times I've seen a police car drive by in the last several years. When I first moved into the city, 4 or 5 times a day, I would see them drive by. So I think with the change of leadership that we have going on right now, I would like us to have a work session and to determine what our priorities are for our community as far as the police with the new and determine what direction we want to go. I don't know if that's something anybody else would be interested in, but I think that would be a great idea at this time to do. Cody Peters, he was a very impressive young man. He talked about having informal community meetings to help engage the residents. I don't know if anybody remembers when we had muffins with the mayor, where he would just sit down here. His wife baked some muffins, and he would sit down here and invite the public down to talk. I would like to see us do more of that kind of outreach rather than waiting for them to come to us in the meetings, because a lot of people are intimidated. The North Pole Economic Development Committee talked about a farmers market in the summertime, and I thought maybe that'd be a good opportunity for us to set up a little booth there and just, table and a couple chairs and just have a sign up there, any questions, stop in and talk to us. That's one idea to address what he had. Anyway, so I thought I would bring that up since they're not up here to work towards those goals. I thought maybe I would take that on. And the only other thing I had is with that pilot paperwork that Mr. Schuster and I had to sign last week, I noticed that the North Pole drug and alcohol policy hasn't been updated since February of 2009. And since then, the marijuana laws in particular have changed dramatically. I brought it up to Maggie, and she agreed that it really does need updated. That's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brandt. Mr. Schuster?
Yeah, just to echo what Mr. Brandt said, I appreciate all the trust and vote of confidence that you have in both of us, appointing us to the council. And like him, I have several issues that I want to tackle. And, I look forward to working and bringing those in front of the council and stuff like that. But I just want to give a quick shout out to I know all the departments place firework, over the holiday weekend, but in specific, I saw Cody with Public Works Sunday morning, waist deep in water, pumping some water from a neighborhood so a house wouldn't flood. And I thought that was pretty special. So I just want to share that.
Thank you, Mr. Schuster. Mr. Keller?
Yes, first off, welcome to the council, Mr. Schuster and Mr. Brandt. I am looking forward to hearing perspective, hearing action items like we've heard tonight. So that's exciting. I'd like to thank the North Pole High School Choir for coming and singing. All these students and school events coming in and the Girl Scouts, it always brings back those memories of me in high school choir and all the events and I knew actually quite a few of the members of the choir, so it was neat to hear the talent that we have here in North Pole. Going on with hearing things tonight, the public testimony, it's great to have community engagement. I do really like Mr. Brandt's echo of Mr. Cody Peters' request of having almost like town hall or, town hall meetings. Being proactive action to invite and listen. That's been something that's been on my mind of how do we be a little bit more proactive rather than reactive on people having to come to city council meetings. And then a little bit of on the ordinance for impounding. It was a lot of discussion on objectiveness and subjectiveness. Subjective is individual interpretation, whereas objective is like a checklist of things that we see. This is something that we cannot take away from the officers, their ability to address situations on a personal level. They're not robots. No one's a robot. But we need to guide them through policies, procedures, of course, but also let them be human. With the ability for people to submit appeals, that gives an opportunity for the person to have a voice. As far as giving that information to the person of how to make those official appeals, that's something that we do need to make sure that we publicly announce and make sure that they are unaware. The thing is we cannot forget the fact that if they're having an arrest or criminal summons or a citation, there's a reason why they're being given those things. And most often, if the car is being left behind, you've lost the right to have that car on the road. So for its safety, other people's safety, I think it's very well the changes that we've made tonight. It's good. We're defining better on what we'd like to have within our city, but also still giving voice to the officers to use discretion and make sure that we support them and in their cause, so we can have faith in the law enforcement. The officers that I know and that I've met within the North Pole Police Department are upstanding citizens, and I fully support them at this time. With that, I pass the mic.
Thank you, Mr. Keller. Mr. Jacobson?
Thank you. I'd like to welcome David and Jordan to the council. I think you're going to add a lot to our discussions. We had a very healthy and constructive discussion tonight on the different ordinances and resolutions, and that's how we collectively can produce good code and policy changes for the city. I appreciated seeing all the concert choir members fill the chambers today in their red and white robes. It was a special treat for everybody, and I appreciate that very much. I am concerned about the dire health insurance changes that have kind of been hinted to. Curiosity is just killing me, but I guess I'll have to just wait on that. I also congratulate the fire department on moving forward with 3 new apprentices to their program. So that's a very successful program that we're continuing. And my heart goes out to all those of the Catholic faith who have lost their religious leader today when Pope Francis passed away.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobson. Mr. Williams?
I'd like to say ditto on what everybody else said. You guys were on target. And the mayor and I went to Military Appreciation Day. And the one thing I got out of that whole place was everybody needs to work together. And there were some things that they were saying that the senators said, but they didn't say. And you have to read between the lines. All of us that's been in the military knows that the military don't tell you everything. The government don't tell you everything. And some of the things that they were saying, anybody been in the military, you can read between the lines, and I'm talking about China and Russia. You can read between the lines of what's going on. So we really, really have to be aware of outside our city and things that's going on. Because there's going to be some things that we're going to see. Remember, they say if you see something, say something. There's a bunch of, oh, how can I put this? There's a bunch of people out there that ain't got their act together. And with all these schools, we really, really got to be aware of what's going on with everybody taking people out, kids taking kids out. That's heartbreaking to me. And there was one more thing. Give me a minute, because sometimes I do lose it. Oh, thank you guys for stepping up to the plate. Each of those candidates, everybody was excellent from what I saw. And I know we all have different ways of thinking of how to see things and how to do things. We're all going to disagree at times. So we have to deal with that. But when we disagree, we want to make things better for us here in North Pole. I didn't say Fairbanks because, if they see what we're doing, maybe they'll catch over on what we're doing and pick it up. But we have to work. I always say this, you work together as a team, like husband and wife. They work together as a team out there. And know you got your kids, you got to lead them down the right direction. Because the next generation of kids coming in after us, guys, if they ain't got their stuff together, all heck is going to bust loose on them. And I dropped the mic to the mayor.
All right, with that, I'd like to say, I also echo everyone's comments this evening. Benny and your wife, thank you for attending the Military Appreciation Ball along with Chief Heineken and his wife. It was great to have some representation from North Pole and be able to meet some of our local service members who we might not have had a chance to meet any other way. It is super important to build those relationships, especially in our community. I would like to congratulate Lieutenant Smith on his appointment to become our newest police officer. Very, very soon, sir. I would like to thank Councilman Claus for staying up so late. Being in Florida, that puts him right around 1:40. So you're hanging in there, old chap. Thank you. I would also like to welcome our 2 new council members. I do think that you bring discussion to our table and discussion to our city, and I like the fresh blood that is here in our city and making changes and the fresh ideas. It is very important to get those new ideas out there for our community. The concert choir. Thank you, North Pole High School Concert Choir, for coming out and doing the national anthem and the Alaska flag song. That is exceptional. And excellence doesn't come easy. It truly comes by habitual practice. If you want to be excellent at anything, it is practice that makes you better, not perfect. With that, I'd just like to say thank you for joining us this evening and have a wonderful night. I move to adjourn.
I'll second.
And we are adjourned at 9:40.
Okay, take this. These are my notes going home.
Sorry to catch some of those corrections on the